you everyone for being here, especially with all the things going on. It is 10:04 by my clock. Just to remind everybody to please mute your microphones when you're not speaking. Please also announce your name if you make a motion or make a comment. We'd appreciate it. Ms. Clark, thank you for filling in for Angelica. Do we have a quorum?
Yes, sir. Let me go ahead and do the roll call for you.
Thank you.
Jackie Cooper. Richard Davila.
Here.
Gary Hahn. You're muted, sir. Are you on your phone, sir? Okay. There should be a mute button or unmute somewhere near the bottom of your phone. I'm seeing two screens for you.
Okay, there we go. All right, here.
Thank you.
I'm not sure why it's two screens.
I don't know either. I've never seen it like this before. But we'll go ahead. Go
Okay.
on. Amy Troust.
Here.
TJ McDowell. Deetra Stewart.
Here.
Dustin Potter.
Here.
Dr. James Fowler. And Presiding Officer Lance Brooks.
Here.
You have a quorum, sir.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Moving on to item C, approval of the minutes. Is there a motion to approve the minutes of August 25th, 2021?
Richard Davila, move to approve the minutes from our previous meeting as written.
Thank you, Mr. Davila. Is
I
there a
second.
second?
I second.
Thank you, Ms. Stewart. So Ms. Stewart has seconded.
I'll go ahead and do a roll call vote for you, sir.
Thank you.
Richard Davila.
Aye.
Gary Hahn.
Aye.
Amy Troust.
Aye.
Deetra Stewart.
Aye.
Dustin Potter.
Aye.
And Presiding Officer Lance Brooks.
Aye.
Motion passes, sir.
Thank you. Moving on to item D, public comment. To my knowledge, there are no presenters to present this morning, but we do have a written public comment via email. Is that correct, Ms. Clark?
Yes, that's correct, sir. Yes, sir.
And so I believe everyone has received a copy of those comments. All right, let's move on to item E, the staff reports. Mr. Rivas, would you please give us a report on the licensing division, please?
Yes. Good morning, advisory board members. Leonard Rivas with the licensing division. You have a copy of my report in front of you. You have totals for fiscal year 2020, 2021, and the totals for the end of September for 2022. I'll go over the numbers for September with you really quick. For hearing fitters and dispensers, we issued 9 new licenses. We renewed 19. And the total population at the end of September is 698. For apprentice permits, we issued 5 new licenses. There were no renewals, and the total population is 47. Temporary training permits, we issued 8 new temporary training permits. We renewed 1 temporary training permit, and the total population at the end of September for temporary training permits is 103. That concludes my report. I'll be glad to answer any questions you may have.
Would there be any questions? Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you. Have a good day.
Thank you. For the customer service division, I understand Ms. Jocelyn Rush is going to make the presentation.
Hi, good morning. My name is Jacqueline Rush. I'm one of the customer service managers And I am presenting the report for Tuan Nguyen, our director who couldn't be here today. He submitted statistics on the amount of calls and emails that we've received in fiscal years 2020 and fiscal year 2021. As you all know, the calls and emails usually represent your community asking questions about application instructions and processing, confirming requirements before sending in an application, status checks on processing and receipt of documents, questions about continuing education and that kind of thing. But I'll be happy to answer any questions about our calls and emails for your industry.
Are there any trends that you're seeing?
Well, you can see the impact that COVID had in fiscal year 2020. There's a dip that occurs right about that time in the amount of contacts that we had that was unusual. But other than that, you'll also see that in it would have been about March of 2020, we implemented a system change in the emails to help alleviate bottlenecks for licensees. So emails that are received with documents were programmed to go straight to the licensing team, so Leonard's team could start processing those right away, and they wouldn't have to sit in a queue in customer service where we don't process documents. So those are the two major trends that you'll see in the last few years.
Very good. Thank you.
You're welcome.
We appreciate all your work. We know that COVID has made everything a bit more challenging, I'm sure.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you for your report. Well, we'll move on then, unless anybody has any other questions. Then we'll move on to item number 3, the Enforcement Division. Mr. Chris Funderburg.
Mr. Chairman, advisory board members, my name is Chris Funderburg, and I'll present enforcement's report to you today. I'll start with some personnel updates. In September 2021, 2 members of our division received well-earned promotions. First, Kimberly Mitchell was promoted from Legal Assistant 2 to Management Analysis 3. This is actually her second promotion, as she was first promoted from Legal Assistant 3 to Legal Assistant 2. Second, Estella Ramos was promoted from Legal Assistant 2 to Senior Legal Assistant in our intake section. This is also Estella's second promotion, as she previously served as an intake administrative assistant before being promoted to Legal Assistant 2. Now, I'd like to move on to the second set of our section of our report. It's a review of statistics that summarize the data generated by enforcement's case resolution process for a particular time period. It's fair to say that the usefulness of these statistics to this advisory board increase as the quality of data being summarized is increased. In turn, the data's quality increases as the number of cases opened during the time period that we're looking at increases. I mentioned this as since we last met on August 25th of this year, enforcement has opened a total of 2 cases in the hearing instrument fitters and the dispenser profession. Hence, my presentation will likely be quite short. As we've in our prior meeting, we summarized the statistics generated during fiscal 2021. I'm going to focus on fiscal year 2022. And as I mentioned earlier, there really is not much to focus on. There were 2 cases opened, 2 cases closed with an average of 60 days to close. They were both resolved within 6 months and no disciplinary action was taken on either, as both of these cases were informally resolved, that is, closed without any official action by the department or by the commission that oversees its activities. Again, it's tough to draw any real conclusions from 2 cases. As you can see, the alleged violations in the 2 cases, one was late, incorrect, or no refund, and the second was a criminal history case, and both were closed without any disciplinary action. So I wish I had more information that I could provide to this board, but we deal with it. We have to deal with what we have. If that concludes my report. Do you have any questions for me?
I just wanted to say congratulations to those who received the promotions. Wanted to say thank you for the timeliness at which you process complaints for all those involved. And I guess I'm also pleased that there haven't, at the small number of complaints, I think that's encouraging to have a small number of complaints, taking resources, and hopefully that means our patient population is being served well.
And we certainly appreciate the lack of activity. Right?
Yes, that seems good.
Oh, I'm sorry, but was there any other questions?
Any other questions from anyone? Well, very good. And thank you for the special effects earlier. That was
Yeah, it's like
excellent.
fade in and out in this reality. Yeah. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Let's move on to item number 4, education and examination. Ms. Rebecca Armas was going to present that, please.
Good morning, Chairman and Advisory Board members. I'm Rebecca Armas with the Education and Examination Division, and I'm going to provide you with a few highlights this morning. As you see, the first page is going to show you the totals overall of the audiometric and the ear impression portion. And as you move on to the second page, that's where it breaks it down by portion. As you see, the trend is for the audiometric, it's gone up from September of 2021 to September, or I'm sorry, fiscal year 21 to 22, it's gone from a 70% up to a 91%. So that's a positive trend for these examinations. Ear impression has always been around the same, between 92 and 94%. And you see the last administration there, we had 91 and 94 for the September administration. The continuing education statistics, since our last meeting, not much, one course, nothing much going on as far as that goes. No new providers. We're constantly obtaining information from everyone and getting all those processed in the order that they're received. Last page we've got is some jurisprudence numbers for you. Again, very low volume, but I'm sure that will increase as the fiscal year moves on. Finally, our division is moving on to streamlining our email processes and how everything comes in. So you'll see a different link when you email our division, and our team will be more than happy to get back to you as soon as we receive those. It's just a more way for us to account for how things come into our division to report our measures. And lastly, I just wanted to make a brief comment about the public comment. I will be addressing that later on in agenda item G on the public comment we received regarding the practical examination. And I'm more than happy to answer any questions if you have any for me.
Very good, thank you. Looking at the first report, it looks like the number of dispensers is increasing, and so the testing is increasing.
Yes.
Are you getting the number of volunteers to help with proctoring that you need?
Thank you for asking me that question. We are in dire need. We understand that the volume is extremely high when it comes around to the session time, and we sometimes have to turn people away because we need more volunteers, because ideally we would love to increase the frequency of these examinations to allow for more attempts and more examinees able to take the examination. So if you are one of our proctors for this examination, we ask you to please reach out. PSI sends emails to recruit you. If you're interested, we will get that information out on our website. We do have plenty of room for volunteers. So thank you so much for bringing that up, because we are in desperate need of more volunteers. Thank you.
Is that all locations, or is that?
Yes, all locations, all locations. Yes, please. Thank you.
Well, thank you. Any other questions or comments for her? Thank you, Ms. Armas.
Thank you.
Let's move on to then the Regulatory Program Management Division, Ms. Katie Bryce.
Good morning, advisory board members. I'm Katie Bryce with the Medical and Health Professions section of Regulatory Program Management. Under current projects, we've been working on bill implementation teams to implement statutory changes from the 87th regular legislative session. I am the team lead for Senate Bill 40, which allows the commission to adopt rules, including telehealth rules and rules for remote supervision. We've also been working with our Versa developers. Versa is the software system we use. You all, I believe, know it as VO to issue licenses. And we are trying to determine the ability to send license notifications upon approval of licenses. That would be in addition to the mailed certificates you get. You would get an instant notification once the license is issued. Under notice, we wanted to provide a notice to our license holders about the U.S. Food and Drug Administration proposed rule establishing over-the-counter hearing aids and the updated draft guidance, which was posted by the FDA in October. As you all know, in August 2017, the U.S. Congress passed the FDA Reauthorization Act of 2017, which in part defined over-the-counter hearing aid, required the FDA to establish a category of over-the-counter hearing aids, and specified certain requirements that must be included in the FDA regulations. On October 20th, 2021, the FDA published proposed regulations for public comment. These proposed regulations establish the over-the-counter category and realign other regulations for hearing aids. The FDA will eventually publish final regulations taking public comments into account. We posted links to the proposed rules and also a link for you to provide public comments on the hearing instrument fitters and dispensers webpage. Since these rules were proposed by the FDA, they're federal rules, the comments go to the FDA, not to DLR. We just wanted to provide this information to our licensees. If you do wish to submit a comment to the FDA, it must be submitted by February 18th, 2022. And under outreach, we have missed attending the THAA conference, but we have it on our calendar for this coming June and look forward to being able to see everyone in person at that time. And that's it for me. I can answer any questions.
Richard Davila, I think the deadline for comments is January 18th, not February 18th.
Is that, did I say
This
it
is
wrong?
Wendy Pello. Yeah, as Senior Assistant General Counsel. Mr. Davila, you're correct. It's January 18th.
I'm sorry. I even have it written down as January. I
That's
just
okay.
said February. Sorry about that. Thank you for the correction.
This is Deidre Stewart. I have a question. So even though these aren't finalized rules yet, aren't I think like Walmart or whatever, aren't they still doing the over-the-counter hearing aids already? That was a question someone asked me this week. So I said, I have a meeting, I'll ask them. So is that
Wendy,
acceptable?
do you want to answer that or do you want me to?
Or I can.
Anybody?
Yeah, if you want to answer it, yeah, go ahead.
Okay, Richard Davila. The products that are being sold at Walmart are being sold under a different label, a different brand, personal sound amplification devices. So they're, marketed for normal hearing people to hear a little bit better. Actual over-the-counter products, there's only one that's available and approved right now through Bose. And the rest of the products will be hitting the market at the end of next summer.
Thank you.
Mary Winston, TDLR. I just wanted to hop in and say thank you so much, Mr. Davila, for clarifying that, because it's not clear to the public. But just as Ms. Stewart was saying, aren't they selling these? Folks don't quite understand that amplification versus a real hearing aid. So that we will have this on YouTube. Ms. Stewart, you can play this to whomever asked you, and that gives us great guidance. Thank you.
So based on what you're saying, so is there liability when people say we sell hearing aids when in actuality it's personal sound devices?
Yes, ma'am. Richard Davila. There certainly could be liability. The enforcement division of the FTC, actually, the Federal Trade Commission, would kind of be in charge of, issuing some type of, order or regulation. I think right now, they're really focused. I know the FDA is on promulgating these rules and getting them finalized. And then eventually, creating this category and allowing really the rebranding of a lot of these products, because that's what will happen. They'll just rebrand them from, personal sound amplification devices to over-the-counter hearing aids, in all likelihood.
Thank you.
And this is Wendy Pello, Senior Assistant General Counsel. The FDA issued the draft proposed rules, but they also issued draft guidance. And that guidance document is trying to make a distinction between hearing aids and personal sound amplification devices. So there's guidance that's also out there for comment that the FDA issued as well.
And I think it's interesting. I think and this is Lance Brooks, I think the rules or laws surrounding dispensers really relate to the person and providing testing of the person as opposed to specifically focused on the device. So once you get into assisting people with human hearing and testing, it's, as I understand it, based on 402.451, we're really focused on that person being licensed to provide them with those services. Certainly, it'll be interesting to see as the government rolls out the over-the-counter hearing aids, how that impacts us, but certainly also strongly believe that care of patients and people who need help with their hearing to reconnect to life is a local issue where the local provider helps those people with the number of issues. So it'll be interesting as this rolls out, but very definitely interesting times. Very good. Any other discussion on this or anything else you would add, Ms. Bryce?
That concludes my report. But thank you.
Thank you. It's going to be fun. I know with some of the certifications I've gotten over the years, it was always fun to take the test and get the instant notification. I understand this probably wouldn't be an instant notification, but it will be exciting for people to get that notification probably a little more quickly in the future. So thank you for your efforts on that.
Sure.
Very good. Well, I believe we have a report from the executive office from Mr. David Gonzalez, please.
Good morning, Presiding Officer Brooks and board members. I am David Gonzalez, one of our 3 deputy executive directors. I happen to oversee the customer service, licensing, and education examination divisions. Executive report will be brief as we don't have much to report or update you on since our last meeting just a couple months ago. But as a quick refresher, I believe Deputy Director Mike Mendez let you know that our sunset bill, HB 1516, did pass, and our agency was continued for another 12 years. Whoop. We're happy about that. He also let you know that after our session ends, the agency switches immediately into bill implementation team mode or BIT team mode. It's a real busy time for our agency. We currently have 28 BIT teams made up from staff across the agency who work diligently to ensure that all the implementation deadlines for all the different statutes that have passed, and we do our best to communicate with the public on our progress. 11 of those teams are actually working on items directly related to sunset bill items. So as you might imagine, every program that's been affected by a statutory change, we're trying to keep track of the deadlines, making sure we've got rules proposed, getting the public comments, all those things that are very important to the process. To that end, I want to make sure that the public is aware that we've updated our link on our webpage, and I'm going to try to share so that y'all can see what it looks like. It's just a little different than a couple months ago. Give me just a moment as I play with my WebEx sharing feature. And here I'm hoping you're going to see our main page. Is everybody seeing our main page? All right. So right here in the center, at the very top of the page, this is how important it is for us to communicate, is new laws for the 87th legislature. Now, the important thing here is if you click on it, you'll find all the bills related to sunset and then by program categorized for each bill that came up by program. This is how we communicate general information regarding the legislative session. What's probably most important and can't get enough billing and advertisement is this thing right up here called email updates. Whenever an actual bill has had an update that we want to get out to the public, we send listserv notices to the public. The only way you get those if you're signed up to our email update. So I want to plug this particular link and actually signing up for the programs you're interested in. Again, you don't have to sign up for all of them, just the ones you're interested in. It's very important for us to communicate with the public. After our bill implementation teams have done their work, we want to get the information out. This is the way that we do it. I think that's all I have to share. If there's any questions related to that information, I'd be glad to answer them. Otherwise, I'll turn it over to Mary for our website statistics.
Okay, good morning. And we have just an update on our statistics. Thank you, Anna, for sharing. This is totally non-scientific, but it gives us good information about how many times the public visits our website and specifically your page a day. That's a little over 100 times per day. And we also measure how they go to the website. Is it by computer? Is it by smartphone? That tablet seems to consistently be 1 to 2%, but depending on the profession, if someone is in a profession that moves around a lot, it tends to be more so on the smartphone. And someone who has to maybe do reports, it tends to be on a desktop computer, which is the case here. 65% of folks visiting your website or your page on our website do so from a computer. Top reasons for visiting: how to apply for a license, hearing instrument fitter and dispenser license, exam information, forms, applying for an apprentice permit, and temporary training permits. So it looks like your profession is recruiting, whether you know it or not. They are interested, the public is interested in how to become a hearing fitter dispenser, or current licensees are interested in what they need to do to stay on top of what they need to do to have forms or submit things to the agency. So looks like our webmaster, Mr. Fickle, is right on top of it, and Josh Schroeder comes up with these. He counts the clicks for us and lets us know what's going on these pages, and we want to thank them. And that concludes the executive report.
Thank you very much. Would anybody have any questions or comments? Thank you very much. Again, I just am impressed as I sit here and look at this panel on my screen, and appreciate all the people who are giving their time this morning to help the dispensers of Texas and the hearing impaired of Texas. So thank you. So I wanted to move on again to item F, discussion and possible recommendation on the proposed amendments to an existing rule of 16 Texas Administrative Code. Ms. Wendy Pello, would you mind talking us through that, please?
Absolutely. Well, good morning. Wendy Pello, Senior Assistant General Counsel. Agenda item F. These are the proposed telehealth rules. These are changes that were being made to Chapter 112, and they include both amendments and new rules and a repeal of an existing rule. Those affected sections are 112.2, 112.130, 112.132, and then 112.150. These were the rules that we talked about at your last meeting on August 25th. These are the comprehensive telehealth rules. We walked through the rules at your last meeting and section by section. I won't do that again today unless there's questions or a particular section or provision you want to revisit. But just as a few highlights for these rule changes, these changes were making what I'd classify as 4 categories of changes. They were implementing the telehealth emergency rules on a permanent basis. They were implementing Senate Bill 40 from the 87th legislature, and that was the telehealth bill related to TDLR's health-related programs. They were including changes as a result of the 4-year rule review related to telehealth, and then they were just making reorganization changes to the current provisions. So those are kind of the 4 big categories of changes. As I said, we met on August 25th with the advisory board, and we walked through those rules. The advisory board had made a small tweak to the definition of telecommunications, and then the advisory board had recommended that the proposed rules with that change be published in the Texas Register and open for public comment. We did have those proposed rules, and they were published in the Texas Register on September 10th, 2021, and the public comment period closed October 11th, 2021. The department did not receive any public comments during the 30-day public comment period on those proposed rules. And so the department wasn't recommending any changes. So at this point, just open it up for any comments or questions or discussion by the advisory board on the proposed rules. If there's not any comments or questions, or we'd just be looking for a recommendation from the advisory board and recommending that the commission adopt the proposed rules as published in the Texas Register.
Very good. So we do need to take a recommendation and a vote then.
Correct.
Thank you. Is there a motion to make a recommendation to accept this?
Richard Davila, make a motion to accept the telehealth proposed rules as written.
Thank you, Mr. Davila. Is there a second?
This is Deetra.
Yes. Look like Deetra and Dusty were both about to say something.
Oh, I was seconding it.
Thank you, Ms. Stewart. Ms. Stewart seconds the motion. So, Ms. Clark, would we want to take a vote?
Of course, thank you.
Thank you.
Richard Davila,
Aye.
Gary Hahn,
Aye.
Amy Troust,
Aye.
Deetra Stewart,
Aye.
Dustin Potter,
Aye.
and presiding officer Lance Brooks.
Aye.
Motion passes, sir.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. And
Let's
the next
move
step will
on.
be take these rules to the commission for their consideration. Thank you.
Oh, yes, thank you. Then let's move on to, if there's any, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off there, Ms. Pello. Sorry about that. Anything else you would add, ma'am?
That's it. Thank you very much for your consideration. Appreciate it. And the vote.
Thank you. Let's move on to the work group assignments, updates, and reports. Education examination work group update concerning public comment received during previous advisory board. Ms. Rebecca Armas.
Yes, good morning again, Chairman and Advisory Board members. My name is Rebecca Armas, and what I want to do is just kind of provide an overview of the examination development process that we do with your examination. The examination review process is we put out a call for subject matter experts, which we will be doing in the next month. We'll put out a listserv notification notifying the industries that we are in need of some assistance to help us address the concerns that were brought up in the public comment, as well as regular maintenance on the examination. This is where I invite, as long as we don't have a quorum, I do invite members of this board to please participate. We would love to have you there with us and see how it is firsthand on the review process. We do not do this in a work group setting as for the advisory board work group, the education work group, because the items of the examination are confidential under Chapter 60. So that is why we encourage the members from the advisory board education work group to assist us as subject matter experts for our exam development team. That way we don't have the quorum and we can go ahead and get things going on that. Our plan is to meet in February, probably late February, to address the concerns that were brought up, as well as, like I said, some maintenance. We are very aware that there are some issues of, maintenance on this examination. We brought this examination over, we met with our subject matter experts, we revised the examination, but now it's time for the cleanup. And of course, we're behind about a year because COVID put a little damper on our ability to meet in person, and even doing this virtually was challenging with our subject matter experts and our psychometrician through our third-party vendor. So we're starting to get in the swing of things on getting back on track as far as our exam development and maintenance goes. So we look forward to any type of assistance from the industry. Be on the lookout for that listserv for the call for subject matter experts to help us with this exam development. I'd say it would be coming out early December. And I'm happy to answer any questions.
Rebecca, this is Wendy Pello. And just to clarify, this was a public comment that was about the practical exam that had been referred to the ENE work group, and this is the update on that is coming back.
Yes, that is correct.
Just in time to that's the agenda item in terms of explaining what that public comment and what the update was.
Yeah.
Thank you.
We certainly do appreciate you looking at that. I know as people are looking at the current technology that's in use, it will certainly make it easier for people to use the technology that they're probably more familiar with.
Oh, most definitely.
So
Yes.
thank you for
Right.
your efforts on that.
Of course.
Any other comments or questions on that from anyone on the board? Very good. Thank you for bringing us that report. Then let's move on to item G2, Education Examination Work Group. Update and assignment, the continuing education rule changes related to House Bill 1560. Ms. Wendy Pello, please.
Thank you, Wendy Pello. Again, this is just an update and an assignment to the E&E Education Examination Work Group. As Mr. Gonzalez had spoke earlier about our sunset bill, House Bill 1560, that passed this past legislative session. It made a lot of different changes. One of the categories of changes it made was to continue education. It had the bill had made changes to repeal and amend program statutes related to continuing education and transfer that statutory authority to our enabling statute under Occupations Code Chapter 51. For the hearing aid fitters and dispensers profession, it had repealed a section 402.303 and then made amendments to 402.207C and 402.305 in your statute. That being said, it transferred that authority. So hearing aid fitters and dispensers and apprentice permit holders are still required to do CE as prescribed and set out and detailed in the rules. It's just a transfer of that statutory authority. All of the provisions that were in the statute were detailed and explained and implemented in the rules, except for one provision that was in the statute about hardship waivers. And so what we would like to assign to the Education Examination Work Group is take a look at whether we'd want to reinstate that provision about hardship waivers in the rules. Because like I said, it was in the statute, but wasn't in the rules. And so we take a look at that. There's a few little cleanup changes as well we would make, but that is the primary issue that we would like to refer to and assign to the Education Examination Work Group.
Very good, very good. So the rules that we had in section 402.303 are transferred to the new rules. Is that, we're just trying to clean up the hardship provisions, is that right?
The 402.303, that's the statutory provision that was repealed, but that statute was implemented through the rules. We have all the rules that were implementing all the details there. The one provision, it was just the hardship waiver that wasn't already in the rules. And so that's what we want to take a look at. Is that something you'd want to carry forward? But the statutory authority for all the continuing education is now in our Occupations Code Chapter 51. So it's kind of standardizing it across programs.
Okay. Any comments or questions from anybody in the group? Very good. So that work group will be working on that. So thank you.
Thank you.
Anything else, Ms. Pello?
Not at this time, not on this matter. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, then let's move on to item number H. Any recommendations for agenda items for the next board meeting?
And Mary Winston, TDLR, this is where I normally jump in and say, because even though you received these agendas earlier, we've talked about a lot of things, and it may not come to mind immediately an agenda item that you want to put forward. So after the meeting, if we don't have anything now, and I'm kind of giving you some more time for the brains to percolate here, but if you don't come up with anything now, please feel free to send us an email at advisory.boards at tdlr.gov, and we will make sure we make note of that for consideration for future board agendas.
Very good.
Mr. Chairman, this is Wendy Pello. That we don't have any rules at the moment, but we have multiple work group assignments. So come back, give us a chance to have the work groups meet, and we probably have work group reports at your next meeting as an agenda item.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Well, very good. Anything else anyone would add about item H? Very good. Then let's move on and discuss the date, time, and location of our next board meeting. Ms. Clark?
Sure, I think we will poll the board after the work groups have met and staff gets those reports together for you, and we'll see what dates are available.
Excellent, excellent. Thank you very much. Well, having heard no other items addressed, we'll announce the meeting is adjourned at 10:45. Thank you again for all those who were able to take time from their busy schedules to be here, and we appreciate you very much. Hope y'all all have a wonderful day and a happy holidays.
Thank you, sir.